Libra darling, what if I told you that this week, the universe may not speak in whispers but instead knock on your door wearing a uniform? This message isn't abstract. It's not symbolic. It's real, it's arriving, and it carries the weight of destiny. In the next few days, someone or something will bring you a truth that changes everything. This isn't just about information. It's about liberation, about divine timing, about justice finally arriving not in theory, but in form. If you're here, watching this now, you were meant to hear this. Your presence is not a coincidence. It's confirmation. Libra, you're the zodiac's peacemaker. But peace doesn't always come quietly. Sometimes, peace arrives wrapped in authority through a letter, a knock at the door, a name you weren't expecting to hear again. Sometimes the truth comes not to destroy, but to set right what's been out of alignment for far too long. What's coming isn't punishment. It's closure. It's the return of your voice. It's the healing of a silence that never should have been kept. And maybe, just maybe, this time the law isn't coming against you, it's coming for you. On your behalf. This week, between cosmic alignments, divine numbers, and the powerful 1111 portal, the energetic field around you is shifting. Venus, your planetary ruler, is in direct flow with Pluto, unlocking hidden emotional truths and karmic contracts. Meanwhile, the Sun in Scorpio lights up your house of secrets, legal matters, and long-awaited truth. So ask yourself, Libra, what have you been waiting to hear and who has been holding it back? Because this is the week it breaks through. And it's not just paperwork. It's sacred proof that the universe saw your patience, your silence, your prayers, and is finally responding. Now, before we go deeper, I want you to take a breath with me. Place your hand on your chest, feel your heartbeat, and repeat softly to yourself, Libra, am ready to receive the truth, the justice, and the divine message meant for me. Say it in the comments below to anchor it fully. That single comment might be the spark that shifts your entire field and lets this energy know you're ready. And let me take a moment to say this, thank you. Truly. Your presence here, your likes, your shares, your comments, your subscriptions, they're not just numbers. They are sacred threads connecting us through this great cosmic web. You are part of the Zodiac Whisper Tarot family now. And I am honored to walk this path with you. So stay with me. Because by the end of this video, you'll understand why this moment matters more than you realize and how it has the power to rewrite not just your week, but your spiritual timeline. Let's begin. There are moments in life when the universe stops whispering and begins speaking in ways we cannot ignore. And often, it chooses to speak not through symbols or dreams, but through something we recognize deeply: form, structure, order. A uniform, for instance, is not just fabric stitched with rank or authority. It is a human emblem of structure, of protection, of societal laws. But when it appears in your life at a moment of spiritual convergence, like the one Libra is experiencing now, it becomes so much more, a sacred signal that the universe is using earthly means to deliver a divine message. This is not about fear or enforcement. It's about recognition. The figure wearing that uniform may be a police officer, a government agent, a lawyer, a notary, or even a stranger delivering certified mail. The role they play is important, yes, but more important is what they represent in that moment. They become the carrier of truth. They reflect a vibration that demands clarity. They are not here to impose, but to clarify, to resolve, to reveal what was once hidden, withheld, or misunderstood. They are, in essence, the mirror of justice in motion. In tarot, this energy most closely aligns with the archetype of justice, a figure that doesn't lean into emotion, but rather into balance, correction, and truth. It's also connected to the King of Swords, someone who delivers facts, decisions, and closure with clarity and honor. When you see these symbols mirrored in real life through an authority figure stepping into your space, you must ask yourself not, why now? But, what truth am I ready to receive? Think of this not just as a forecast, but as a spiritual checkpoint. If something arrives this week, a document, a voice message, a resurfaced conversation, it is doing so under divine timing. Perhaps it's an answer you've prayed for without realizing it. Or maybe it's a resolution you've waited so long to receive, you almost gave up hope. Either way, its arrival in this form, through the tangible, through the legal, through the formal, is a clear sign that the universe is not only listening. It is responding. There's something deeply comforting about that. In a world that often feels chaotic, abstract, or overwhelming, to receive a message in physical form, stamped, signed, announced, or formalized, gives shape to faith. It affirms that the unseen does not stay invisible forever. It tells us that when we've done the inner work, external order will follow. And isn't that how most miracles arrive? Not in flashes of light, but in carefully orchestrated sequences that make sense only in hindsight. Many times, the hand of grace doesn't show up with wings, it shows up in the form of a changed heart, a contract signed, a case closed, a name cleared. It comes with a signature, a phone call, a second chance. Sometimes, it looks like an apology that arrived late but right on time for your healing. That's what's happening now for you, Libra. The officer, the official, the uniformed presence, they are not interrupting your path. They are completing it. You are not being investigated. You are being vindicated. This is the end of a cycle that never truly fit your soul. And now, the closing of that cycle is being stamped by real-world authority. So if you feel your heart beating a little faster, if your spirit is on alert, that's not anxiety. That's alignment. Something real is unfolding. You don't need to chase it. You don't need to fear it. You only need to receive it. Stay aware. Stay open. And when it comes, remember this was never a disruption. It was your answer, dressed in form, walking straight into your life at the perfect time. If you feel this in your bones, Libra, leave a comment that says, "I am ready to receive my truth in perfect timing." That affirmation doesn't just echo into the algorithm, it echoes into the vibration of your week. And trust me, it will return. There's a particular kind of week when the stars don't just shimmer quietly above us, they align like a spotlight, illuminating truths we were either not ready to face, or had nearly forgotten were ours to claim. This week, Libra, is exactly that kind of moment. If the previous part of our journey revealed that the universe might speak through uniforms and official documents, this chapter is where the cosmos itself speaks your name. Not in riddles. Not in signs. But in undeniable, transformative clarity. Astrologically, we're standing at a powerful intersection. Venus, your ruling planet, the keeper of love, balance, self-worth, and what we hold dear, is forming a rare, potent trine with Pluto, the deep transformer. When these two celestial bodies connect in this way, the there's an invitation to peel back the layers in your emotional and relational world. But this isn't chaos. It's not collapse. It's revelation. What has been buried emotionally, legally, spiritually begins to stir. This is the moment power dynamics shift. Things that felt off start to become obvious. And most importantly, what once made you doubt your value will no longer have the energetic hold it used to. Pluto does not play. And when it harmonizes with Venus, it doesn't whisper healing, it demands transformation. If there's a relationship, a contract, a belief system, or even an internal dialogue that's been quietly compromising your worth, this week it could come to the surface. But not to hurt you. To free you. And the beauty here, Libra, is that your natural gift, your inner scales of justice are already perfectly equipped to navigate this realignment. You don't need to fight. You only need to see clearly and choose differently. As this plays out, the Sun in Scorpio casts its light on your house of hidden matters, the realm of secrets, karmic debts, unresolved emotional echoes. This placement encourages deep, honest truth-seeking. You may find yourself asking, why was that hidden from me? Why did they withhold that truth? Why did I stay silent when my heart screamed louder than words? These are the right questions. And the answers, Libra, are already making their way to you. Not all at once. But steadily. Meaningfully. Now let's talk about timing. Because this isn't just any week, it includes the sacred sequence of 1111. In numerology, 11 is a master number. It represents intuition, awakening, divine alignment. And when it appears twice 1111, it forms a spiritual portal. Not in a fantasy sense, but as a real energetic moment where your decisions, your focus, and your readiness to grow have exponential momentum. If you've been waiting for a breakthrough emotionally, legally, financially, relationally, this is a window to step through with clarity. But you must walk forward consciously. This is where faith meets action. And here's something to remember, drawn from the quiet wisdom that often guides us in everyday life. Things done in secret are never really hidden. There's a quiet principle that truth, no matter how long it is delayed, eventually seeks the light. In your case, Libra, this week may bring confirmation of that, perhaps in the form of a confession, a signed decision, or a piece of information that shifts the entire narrative. And it won't be a random discovery. It will feel like divine timing, wrapped in earthly events. So if you sense something stirring, if a conversation resurfaces, or a legal matter starts moving, or you find yourself looking at someone differently, don't ignore that inner nudge. You're not imagining it. You're being realigned. Let this be the week you stop waiting for external validation and start anchoring into inner truth. The stars are not only speaking, they are offering you a mirror. Look into it not to judge what was, but to recognize what can be restored. If something inside you knows this message is for you, affirm it in the comments. I am aligned with truth, timing, and transformation. Your words are seeds. And what you plant now, Libra, will take root in the season ahead, not only bringing clarity, but anchoring the kind of freedom your soul has always known it deserves. What's remarkable about this moment, Libra, is that the energies around you aren't just speaking through astrology, they're echoing through the cards as well, confirming what your intuition has been sensing all along. When the tarot aligns with the stars, it's never random. It's a reflection of divine rhythm, echoing what already exists within your spirit. And this week, that reflection begins with the card of justice. The message is as direct as it is undeniable. Truth is surfacing, and fairness is finally tipping in your favor. Not in theory, not someday, but now. The scales that felt uneven for so long are finally shifting, and you, dear Libra, are standing right at the center of that alignment. Justice is not about revenge. It's not about righting every wrong in a dramatic way. It's about balance. It's about the restoration of clarity where confusion once lived. Think of the areas in your life where you've second-guessed yourself in relationships, in decisions left unanswered, in opportunities delayed or denied. The presence of justice says that waiting wasn't for nothing. The silence wasn't empty. Behind the scenes, the pieces were moving into place so that when truth came, it would be clear, anchored, and free of chaos. Now it's arriving, and not just spiritually, but practically. Alongside this card appears the Page of Swords. This messenger doesn't shout. They don't always arrive with fireworks. But when they do show up, they carry what your soul has been craving: clarity, information, an update that breaks the static. Often, this card points to a conversation that had been stalled, or a truth someone was too afraid to tell. It may come from a text, a letter, a voice, a moment of eye contact that says everything without needing words. Someone has held back because they weren't ready. But now, something has shifted. And the words they once couldn't say are beginning to take form, either as confession, reconciliation, or simply acknowledgement. You may be surprised who delivers this, or how it shows up. But when it does, you'll recognize the energy immediately. It's what you've been waiting to hear. And then, beautifully, we have the Four of Wands. This is your reminder that this journey, all the chaos, the holding on, the spiritual work behind closed doors, it's leading somewhere sacred. This is the card of return, of celebration, of homecoming. Not always a physical space, but a sense of belonging. It often speaks of reconciliations, milestones, peaceful conclusions, and yes, divine timing. If you've been caught in between chapters, emotionally or even legally, this card whispers that the new beginning is not just possible, it's near. There may be a gathering, an announcement, or simply a quiet realization within your spirit that you've finally arrived at a new phase. When all three cards appear together, the story becomes unmistakable. You are not only seen by the universe, you are being chosen for a sacred realignment. Someone is coming forward. Something is being revealed. And your space, your emotional home, your literal family, your community is about to reflect the internal peace you've fought so long to find. If this resonates with you, Libra, I want to gently ask you to affirm your readiness in the comments below. Say, I am open to receive what has been delayed. I welcome my message, my clarity, and my justice. Saying it aloud, even writing it, creates an energetic permission slip for the next part of your story to unfold. You don't need to chase it. You've already done the work. Now let it come to you. It's easy to mistake silence for weakness, especially when the world teaches us that power must be loud, visible, and constantly in motion. But Libra, your silence wasn't empty. It wasn't passive. It was a sanctuary, a place where your strength was learning how to root itself in stillness. And now, as the external shifts begin to align with the internal work you've done, you're starting to see that your quiet wasn't weakness. It was wisdom. It was discernment. It was protection. Sometimes the greatest strength is the one that waits, watches, and chooses to respond only when the timing is divine. This week isn't about dramatic declarations or explosive revelations, even though something powerful is certainly coming. It's about how you receive it. Emotional liberation doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it comes in the form of a gentle release, a breath you didn't know you were holding finally exhaled, a truth finally spoken, or the moment you realize you no longer need to prove your worth to anyone. This is the medicine you didn't know your heart needed. And it's here now, disguised as clarity. In matters of love, this energy asks you to become radically honest. Who in your life avoids the truth? Who stays silent when you need presence? Who shows up only halfway, asking for more than they give? It's time to stop bending around people who shrink in the face of transparency. The ones meant to walk with you now are those who honor truth even when it's hard and who hold space for your full, unfiltered self. You deserve that. Nothing less. Financially, this is a powerful moment to revisit unfinished business. Go through old records, unopened mail, that email you kept meaning to answer. There may be something you missed, a small opportunity, a forgotten refund, even a kind gesture waiting to be received. The universe moves through small hinges, and this week, your awareness might be the very thing that swings open a door you thought was sealed. In your career, the redirection might come from a person you least expect. It may be a casual conversation, a colleague who suddenly speaks your name in the right room, or a chance encounter that shifts your trajectory. Stay open to the flow. You don't need to control how opportunity arrives, you just need to be present when it knocks. When it comes to your well-being, focus on your rest. Truly. Sleep is not just recovery, it is realignment. Especially around the 10th and 11th, your dreams may carry messages, or your body may ask for deeper restoration. Honor it. Light a navy blue or silver white candle. Meditate or pray for 11 minutes. Don't rush it. These colors aren't just aesthetic, they hold frequencies of intuition, healing, and cosmic alignment. Give yourself permission to unplug and receive. What's unfolding now isn't just news. It's nourishment. It's not just a message, it's a milestone. And while external circumstances may change, the real shift is happening within. You're stepping out of survival and into authorship. You're no longer waiting for permission to be fully seen. This week, you take up space not with noise, but with knowing. You reclaim your voice by listening to your own soul before anyone else's opinion. You move from reacting to responding, from delay to direction. So, Libra, if you've ever questioned whether your stillness meant you were falling behind, let this be your confirmation. You weren't falling behind, you were growing deeper. And now, it's time to rise from that depth and write the next chapter of your life from the center of your truth. If this speaks to your spirit, I invite you to leave a comment that simply says, I honor my patience, I choose my peace, I receive my clarity. Let your words be your anchor this week. Because clarity is no longer on its way, it's already within you, waiting to be claimed. It's remarkable how the most unexpected moments, the ones that appear ordinary on the outside, can carry the energy of something much older, deeper, and more sacred. Libra, what you're stepping into now isn't just personal closure or emotional justice. It's something ancestral. The arrival of a message, a decision, or even a person in uniform isn't only about this moment in time, it's about a promise made long before you ever asked the question. There are energies moving through you now that were set in motion generations ago. And whether you've been aware of it or not, you are the one chosen to fulfill that arc. The restoration you're about to witness isn't random. It's the fulfillment of an old contract, a soul agreement written before your first breath, now coming full circle. When we talk about destiny, we often think of personal goals, careers, love stories, financial security. But there is also a higher layer of destiny, the kind that speaks on behalf of an entire bloodline, the kind that heals wounds you didn't create but were born to transform. That's what's happening now. You may find yourself remembering things that were never spoken out loud. You may feel drawn to places or people without logic. You may notice signs, initials, symbols, dreams, and wonder why they tug at your heart. This is not coincidence. It's resonance. Your soul is recognizing what your mind cannot explain. You're standing at the threshold of inherited healing. The message coming to you, whether through a letter, a signature, a final decision, may look like modern paperwork. But spiritually, it's so much more. It is the moment when a story that was paused gets to continue. Someone from your ancestral line once prayed for justice, for clarity, for a chance to be heard. And while they may not have received it in their lifetime, you have become the vessel through which that justice now arrives. You're not just receiving for yourself. You're closing loops that were left open for decades, maybe even centuries. And here's the beautiful truth: you didn't have to demand this. You didn't have to fight for it. You attracted it. Through your integrity, your resilience, your refusal to give up hope even when you felt invisible, you became a magnet for divine restoration. That is the law of attraction at its highest frequency. You didn't chase power. You became aligned with peace. And in doing so, power found you. You didn't beg for answers. You stayed true to your center, and clarity arrived on its own timing. Sometimes we think we need to prove we're worthy of restoration. But Libra, your worth was never in question. It was the world that needed to catch up. And now, through this symbolic messenger, whether official, unexpected, or quietly familiar, a sacred balance is being restored. You were once the silent witness to injustice. But now, you are the sword bearer. The one who does not seek revenge, but radiates redemption. The one who clears the path not just for themselves, but for everyone who came before and everyone who will come after. If you've been sensing a deep inner shift lately, and knowing you can't explain, this is why. You're not imagining it. You're not overreacting. You're standing in the energy of fulfillment, not only of your story, but of theirs. This is legacy healing. This is generational redemption. And if it feels heavy, that's okay. Honor the weight, but also recognize your strength to carry it, transform it, and finally set it down. If this message speaks to something deep inside you, leave a comment that says, "I honor the story before me, and I receive the justice that's mine to carry forward." Your words have power, Libra, and right now, they are writing a new ending to an old beginning. So, Libra, as we reach the end of this message, I want you to take a deep breath, not because something is ending, but because something is opening. Everything you've just heard wasn't meant to overwhelm you. It was meant to remind you. Remind you that your life is not a string of random events, but a beautifully coded blueprint, and you are the author now holding the pen. Every challenge you've faced wasn't placed in your path to punish you. It was placed there to prepare you. For clarity. for leadership, for divine timing. And now, you're stepping into the kind of alignment that no one can take from you because it was never granted by them in the first place. It came from within you, from your resilience, your willingness to wait, to listen, to trust. This chapter you're in is no longer about survival. It's about creation. The kind of creation that begins when you believe your life is worthy of rewriting not by force, but by faith. Because the truth is, no one else gets to decide how your story unfolds. No one else holds the final word on your worth, your voice, or your direction. The greatest freedom you will ever claim is the moment you stop asking the world for permission, and start saying, "This is who I am, and this is what I'm building." So here's what I gently encourage you to do this week, not for the algorithm, not for performance, but for the integrity of your own spirit. Start by writing down your dreams. Especially the ones that wake you in the middle of the night or whisper to you just before you fall asleep. Set aside a few quiet minutes at 11:11 each morning or night to meditate, to pray, or simply to sit with yourself in stillness. Light a white or silver candle for 3 nights. You don't have to know why. Just trust that symbolic actions open energetic doors. And while you do this, ask yourself softly, what am I ready to release and what part of myself am I finally ready to reclaim? These are not small questions. But they are the right ones. And you don't need all the answers right away. You just need the courage to ask. Now, if this message touched something inside you, even a single word that felt like it was written just for you, I invite you to affirm it aloud in the comments below. Say, "I, Libra, am ready to receive the justice and truth that are divinely mine." There is power in your voice. And when you speak it, even digitally, you send out a vibration that calls what's yours toward you. Before we part, let me say thank you. Truly. Your presence here matters more than you know. Every like, every comment, every subscription helps keep this sacred space alive. It deepens our connection. It expands the family here at Zodiac Whisper Tarot, and it allows these transformational messages to continue reaching the hearts that need them most. But most of all, thank you for doing the work. For showing up for yourself. For walking the path, even when it's unclear. The universe is tilting in your favor, Libra. All you have to do now is say yes. Say yes to clarity. Say yes to your voice. Say yes to the version of your life you always knew was possible. And I promise I'll meet you right there, in the next message. In the next breakthrough. Right here, at Zodiac Whisper Tarot.